from the 6th chapter of the book of Nehemiah. We're going to continue in our chapter study. Have a good audience tonight. Appreciate everyone coming back out to worship with us. Had a beautiful song service up to this point. Maybe I have something to say tonight that'll be a benefit to all of us and help build us up in the most holy faith. Please follow along. We'll read the chapter in its entirety, beginning in verse 1 of Nehemiah chapter 6. Now it happened when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem, the Arab, and the rest of our enemies heard that I had rebuilt the wall and that there was no breaks left in it, though at that time I had not hung the doors in the gates. That Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, "Come and let us meet together among the villages in the plain of Ono." But they thought to do me harm. So I sent messengers to them, saying, "I am doing a great work so that it cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave and go down to you?" But they sent me this message 4 times, and I answered them in the same manner. Then Sanballat sent his servant to me as before the 5th time with an open letter in his hand. And it was written, "It is reported among the nations, and Geshem says that you and the Jews plan to rebel. Therefore, according to these rumors, you are rebuilding the wall that you may be their king, and that you have also appointed prophets to proclaim concerning you at Jerusalem, saying, 'There is a king in Judah.' Now these matters will be reported to the king, so come therefore and let us consult together." Then I sent to him, saying, "No such things as you say are being done, but you have invented them in your own heart. For they all were trying to make us afraid, saying their hands will be weakened in the work, and they will not be done, and it will not be done. Now therefore God strengthened my hands. Afterward I came to the house of Shemaiah, the son of Deliah, and the son of Mehetabel, who was a secret informer, and he said, "Let us meet together in the house of God within the temple, and let us close the doors of the temple, for they are coming to kill you, and indeed at night they will come to kill you." And I said, "Should such a man as I flee? And who is there such as I who would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in." Then I perceived that God had not sent him at all, but that he had pronounced this prophecy against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. For this reason he was hired, that I should be afraid and act that way and sin, so that they might have cause for an evil report, and that they might reproach me. My God, remember Tobiah and Sanballat, according to these their works, and the prophetess Noadiah, and the rest of the prophets who would have made me afraid. Verse 15, so the wall was finished on the 25th day of Elul, in 52 days. And it happened when all of our enemies heard of it, and all the nations around us saw these things, that they were very disheartened. And in their own eyes, and they would perceive that this work was done by our God. Also in those days, the nobles of Judah sent many letters to Tobiah, and the letters of Tobiah came to them. For many in Judah were pledged to him, because he was the son-in-law of Shechaniah, the son of Arah, and the son of Jehohanan, had married his daughter Meshullam, who soon the son of Berechiah. Also they reported his good deeds before me, and reported my words to him. Tobiah sent letters to frighten me. So several names in there, pardon my mispronunciation of those, but a lot of twists and turns in this chapter. And hopefully tonight we're going to see and kind of concentrate and look how the enemy comes in a craftier way. When the enemy fails on one front, and we've read and we've studied about how many different ways that Sanballat and Tobiah has tried to put a stop to this work, and how they've tried to trip up Nehemiah and his leadership, and he's leading these people to rebuild these walls, and how all of those plans have failed. But then again tonight we're going to see how the enemy regroups and comes after God's people one more time, and take some applications from that to help shore up our homes and make sure that the enemy once again cannot infiltrate our homes and our safe places. But barring any mistakes, this is what is recorded for us in the 6th chapter of the book of Nehemiah. We also have a wonderful privilege and a duty and an honor to approach our Heavenly Father in prayer, so we ask that you would humble yourself in some manner, and the one appointed will direct our prayer. Well, again, welcome back to the assembly. Appreciate everyone's presence with us. Been looking forward to this study. As I always do, I appreciate so much. I want to take just a moment and say thank you each and every month as I give these studies. The feedback that I get from you guys is kind of overwhelming, and I appreciate so much the encouragement of that feedback. This is at least the second time that I've gone through this study here, but I must be doing a better job because I don't remember getting the feedback that I've gotten this time the last time. So I appreciate that. That is very encouraging to me as a speaker, and I remind you to please let all of our men who take the pulpit and who put forth the effort that they do to get a lesson together. That encouragement is very helpful to all of us. So please make sure you let those brothers know how much you appreciate their work and the effort that they do to put a lesson together. It's not easy, and that encouragement is much welcome. So as we stated, Nehemiah chapter 6. Now up until this point, we've seen Nehemiah, of course, was in Shushan, the citadel, when he heard that the wall was torn down back in chapter 1. And he was deeply distressed and broke down and cried and was very mournful over the fact. And the king said, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And he had a great relationship with the king. And we started looking at the leadership qualities and characteristics Nehemiah displayed even there as a servant to the king. And then so much so that the king gave him everything that he desired to come back to do the work. He come back and he took time to methodically look and survey the situation before he just went out and dealt with the problems of the wall being broke down. And as they got to work, he gave everybody the encouraging and the real motivational speeches instead. And they all said, "Let us get together, let us put our hands together and do this work." And then they got to work, and then midway through the work, their excitement, their zeal kind of waned a little bit, and they was looking at all the rubble that still lay before them. And we talked about how distractions come into our lives and kind of can derail us. And then as leaders have to be able to see before and get ahead of those things. Then we saw how the enemies, Sanballat and Tobiah, these ones that we talked about here, how they started first just mocking and making fun. And a lot of times in our lives, that's what we get from this culture in our society around about us, in our work life and in your school, your friends. They may mock and make fun of why you dress like that, ladies. Why you wear your hair like that, brothers. Why do you dress the way you do, and why do you do and not do the things that you don't do and don't do? Then they kind of make fun of it, just like those enemies did. Well, when that didn't take root, then they started throwing threats and serious threats, and they said that we're going to come and attack. And then Nehemiah said, "All right, that's fine. We're going to keep on with the work, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to prepare." And everybody carry their weapon with their right hand and work with their left hand. And then they set guards, and he protected the people. And we talked about the security and how important it was to have security within our walls. And those walls, we're using this wall of Jerusalem as symbolic to the walls of our homes, husbands, wives, mothers, fathers. This wall around Jerusalem is representative of your wall around your house and around your kids. It's also represented around the wall around this congregation. And as we, of leaders of this congregation, we are to protect the flock here. So that's kind of what we're watching and seeing again here, another opportunity or another instance to where the enemy comes knocking yet again, trying to derail this work before it finally gets accomplished. We see there in verse 1 again, "Now it happened with Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem and Arab and the rest of our enemies heard that I had rebuilt the wall, that there were no breaks left in it, though at that time I had not hung the doors and its gates, that Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, 'Come, let us meet together among the villages in the plain of Ono.' But they thought to do me harm." So the wall was all but complete. There was no more breaks in the wall. The only thing left was to hang its doors, hang the gates, and to do that final sealing up. So the wall, there was no more gaps in the wall. But the enemy comes knocking once again. The enemy comes in a more craftier way this time. So again, as I stated, the wall represents the house, represents our homes and our house. Satan is Sanballat and Tobiah. That's the role there with Satan. And just as we've about got our lives in order, or we think we do, Satan comes knocking once again. You see, here's this group of people. Nehemiah have led these people to rebuild this wall. It is complete. They just got to put the doors on the hinges. They got to put the gates on the hinges, and then everything is complete. But just as they're about to wrap up this tremendous project, here comes Satan. Here comes the enemy once again. How many times in our lives have we almost got everything like we need it? And then Satan comes and pulls the rug out from underneath us. When I say Satan comes and pulls, life happens. And when life happens, it knocks us down. And then the next thing you know, we're in a downward spiral. And we find ourselves way away before we realize it. We find ourselves in a weak, in a vulnerable position. We were once here with the wall complete. All we're doing is hanging the door, and the next thing we know, we turn around because the enemy come and pull the rug out from underneath us, and now we're fell away again. Just when we think we got our lives together, the enemy comes in craftier ways. This time they came to call Nehemiah to the plain of Ono. Now I love maps, many other people do, and visuals, just to try to see where this is. Now Nehemiah's in Jerusalem. He's rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem. So he's there in Jerusalem. Ono is 37 miles, almost 40 miles away. That's not a whole lot of distance in today's time, but in that day's time, that's a pretty good day's hike. To walk, if you will, or to ride a camel, or a donkey, 40 miles would be a pretty good day's journey. But what's significant here, or the lesson that I took as I was reading this and trying to look at things from the enemy's perspective. Why was these enemies trying to draw Nehemiah away? For you see, that's a very important point to get here. For you see, the enemy knew that if they could get Nehemiah away from the people that he loved, away from the stronghold that he had, away from the stronghold of this city and this wall, away from the safety and security that he was a part of and that he also felt, and again, away from those loved ones in whom he was doing all this work for and whom that he was standing as strong as he was standing for. If they could get him away, then it would be easier. Brothers, you are weaker when you're away from the flock. That's the point I'm getting at. Brothers and sisters, when you're within this flock and you're keeping a close connection with this flock on a daily, on a weekly, it's bi-weekly services, all those things are for you. That Wednesday night service is so we can stay, for many other reasons, but one of the main reasons is so we can stay connected. And we can keep check on one another. And we can stay a part in one another's life. Saw a road sign one time, a full week without reading a Bible, or a full 7 days without reading the Bible makes 1 week. Pretty interesting pun there. But a full 7 days without being with your brothers and sisters will also make 1 week. Satan knows, Sanballat and Tobiah knew, if they could get Nehemiah away from the congregation, if they could get them away from Jerusalem, away from that strong point, they would have a better chance of doing harm to him. Whether that's physical or whether that's spiritual. And I want you to know, I want you to hear me, brother, sister, you walk away from this congregation for any extended period of time, you will become weak, and the enemy will have you exactly where he wants you. To stay strong, to stay faithful, you have to stay connected to the family of God within the stronghold that God has built his church. Again, they thought to do Nehemiah harm. So he says, I sent messages to them saying, I'm doing a great work, so I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you? Nehemiah knew better. He knew what the plan was. He knew what the enemy was trying to accomplish. He recognized their threat for what it was. They wasn't trying to go out there and negotiate with him. They wasn't going to try to come up there and him go out there and compromise and to come up with an agreement between the two. They were going to do him harm, and he knew it. And he knew that if they went out there and they did him harm, that the work would suffer also. He knew better. So he says, I'm too busy tending to a very important work. The work cannot stop until my family is safe. Satan, I hear you want me to come out there and negotiate with you. Nehemiah says, fathers, you need to say as well, leaders in this congregation, we need to say as well, the work is too important. My family's safety is too important. My soul and my soul's salvation is too important. I'm not leaving the work that I've got going on to go entertain with the devil. I'm not leaving the work till my family is safe. Verses 4 through 5, but then they sent this messenger 4 times, and I answered them in the same manner. 4 times they sent these messages. Come on out, Nehemiah. Come on out to the plain of No. We're just going to talk 4 times. And then Sanballat sent his servant to me before the 5th time, this time with an open letter. So the 5th time he comes with a different method, and this method was with an open letter. It was customary in those days and time, and for many centuries beyond that, even in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, I don't know exactly when this custom quit, but a letter, when dignitaries would communicate, when people of importance would communicate, they would have to write a letter. They didn't have a cell phone. They couldn't send text messages. They hand wrote letters, and then they sealed it with a signet ring or with a seal or whatever. They melted wax and they sealed that letter, because that says this is a private letter. This is a communication between me and you, and nobody else is going to open this or read this, and if this seal is broken, you know that they've had. But Sanballat sent this letter. He sent an open letter. This is very interesting. Why he sent an open letter? Because he sent an open letter because he wanted the people to read what was in there. He wanted to start this rumor mill. Sending open letters showed a lack of respect as well as contempt. Verses 6 through 7, and what was written in that letter was why he sent in an open letter. Again, he wanted to start the rumor mill. It is reported among the nations, and Geshem says that you and the Jews plan to rebel. Therefore, according to these rumors, you are rebuilding the wall that you may be their king. And you have also appointed prophets to proclaim concerning you at Jerusalem, saying, there is a king in Judah. Now these matters will be reported to the king. So come, therefore, and let us consult together. Again, trying to entice him out to the planet No. And this time, he weaves it in a fabrication of lies. He made up all kind of stories. And he sent it in an open letter, so everybody who, what's this say? And then the murmuring would start, and the whispering, and then the word spread out through the land. Nehemiah's planning on becoming a king. And then that whisper continues on until it does reach the king. And then the king's upset at Nehemiah. So you see, that's what Sanballat and Tobiah, that's how this enemy is coming a little more craftier than the last time. The enemy spreads lies throughout the country concerning Nehemiah and the Jews. They tell the people that Nehemiah is trying to become king, trying to make himself their king. They want Nehemiah and the Jews to believe that they will send word to King Artaxerxes, so they are planning to rebel. So they're trying to weave this web of lies, so to try to instill a little more fear into these people, so they'll quit this work, and so they'll quit and go back, because they want them to be scared of the king catching wind of these rumors. Verses 8 through 9, then I said to him, Nehemiah sends to Sanballat and Tobiah, no such things as you say are being done, but you invent them in your own heart. Nehemiah says, you're a liar, Sanballat. Everything that you just wrote is a 100% lie. And you know that they are. You've invented them in your heart. For they all were trying to make us afraid, saying their hands will be weakened in the work, and it will not be done. Now therefore, O God, strengthen my hands. So Nehemiah stood up and called them out for the lies that they were telling. He reassured the people and let them know what the enemy was trying to do. And then Nehemiah once again prays. And remember, we've been kind of keeping track of how many times Nehemiah prays. This is prayer number 7. Because that is the lesson, one of the major lessons that I've learned from this book of Nehemiah and from Nehemiah as a leader, is how many times he goes to God and seeks God's counsel in prayer and in meditation. So prayer number 7, we're in chapter 6, prayer number 7 that Nehemiah has uttered so far. Verses 10 through 11, afterward I came to the house of Shemaiah, the son of Delaiah, the son of Mehetabel, who was a secret informer. And he said, let us meet together in the house of God within the temple, and let us close the doors of the temple, for they are coming to kill you. Indeed, at night they will come to kill you. And I said, should such a man as I flee? And who is there such as I who would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. So again, another twist that the enemy is trying to capture Nehemiah. They send a spy within the camp. Somebody who was supposed to be part of the team. Somebody who was supposed to be there helping and working and again, part of the family. Somebody that should have been able to be trusted. It was the secret enemy. The enemy resorts into sending the spy into the camp. His intent was to use fear as a tool to trip Nehemiah up and cause him to sin. Well, you see, at this time, this was in the Mosaic law. This is in the days that they were having to follow the Mosaic law. And in so doing, only the priests could go into the temple. So see, this guy was saying, they're going to come and kill you, Nehemiah. And he said, the best plan for you to do to be able to escape this threat of murder is you need to go hide out in the temple. Well, you see, this spy, this enemy, he knows what he's doing. If he can get Nehemiah to go in that temple, he's gotten Nehemiah to sin. And see, if Nehemiah would have went in, it would have been a sin and it would have ruined his reputation. Our brother did an excellent job this morning talking about being blameless. Nehemiah, up until this point, is blameless. Nehemiah takes this bait. Nehemiah listens to this spy, and he says, I am scared. I probably do need to try to go into this temple to save my life. He does that. When that wasn't happening, it was just a lie. He steps into that temple, and now he has harmed his reputation. Now he's no longer blameless. Much harder for him to lead the people when he's ruined his reputation. Then I perceived that God had not sent him at all, but that he pronounced his prophecy against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. For this reason he was hired, that I should be afraid and act that way in sin, so that they might have cause for an evil report, and that they might reproach me. See, Nehemiah, being a man of God, being a man who speaks with God, being a man of integrity and who knows what's right and what's wrong, then he's going to hold to the truth of what is right and not falter from it, saw the trickery behind the enemy, saw the craftiness, and said, I'm not going to fall for it. Craftier ways that the enemy will come to us. When we think we've got everything shored up, when we think that we've got everything under our control, so to speak, if you will, as godly men in our homes, we've got everybody nice and tucked in, and our home is secure and metaphorically, then the enemy finds craftier ways to shoot his fiery darts at our family. Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 14, that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and the cunning craftiness whereby they lie in wait to deceive. This wasn't just a tactic in the day of Nehemiah. Satan is a roaring lion walking about seeking whom he may devour. And he does it in ways that is much more crafty than you and I can ever imagine. He does it in ways that is so subtle that you and I would never even notice it if we're not looking. We have to be on point all the time, especially fathers and mothers of young children. Especially, you have to be on point at all times. We all do for our soul salvation all the time as we walk about this world. But Satan is looking to infiltrate your home and looking to try to steal your family. Fathers, protect your homes. Make sure that there is no gaps in the wall. Make sure you hang the gates, and make sure you don't listen to the lies from the enemy. Don't make sure that you become aware of the craftiness of the enemy and you don't let him in. Verse 14, Nehemiah says, My God, remember Tobiah and Sanballat according to these their works, and the prophetess Noadiah, and the rest of the prophets who have made me afraid. So, if you recall, the end of chapter 5, Nehemiah says, I'll read this. He says in a prayer there, remember me, my God, for good, according to all that I have done for these people. So Nehemiah had a difficult time there in chapter 5, and he addressed the things that needed to be addressed, and then he asked God, God, remember me for good as I've tried to serve and lead these people. And then here again we see in verse 14, he says, God, I want you to remember my enemies for the evil that they do, according to these their works. And the prophetess Noadiah. Now, I tried to research, or I did research. There's nothing else that I could find about this prophetess Noadiah, but apparently she was in cahoots with Tobiah and Sanballat, and she was an enemy of Nehemiah and the people. But I tried to find more information about her, but I could not. But Nehemiah prayed that God would remember these evil deeds that these people had done. So Nehemiah again prays, prayer number 8. Chapter 6, 8 prayers. Verses 15 through 16. So the wall was finished on the 25th day of Elul, in 52 days. And it happened when our enemies heard of it, and all the nations around us saw these things, that they were very disheartened in their own eyes, for they perceived that the work was done by our God. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to pause right here and just take a minute to reflect over the fact of this accomplishment that had been done in the days where there wasn't any front-end loaders, there wasn't any Summertown Metals to call and get some parts delivered, there wasn't any drills and taps, and there wasn't any of the modern technologies that there are today. In 52 days, they rebuilt this wall. A tremendous feat. And they did it by a great leader who was making sure that the people kept their sight on the proper vision, on the proper goal, making sure that the obstacles that the people had to face were removed, making sure that they had security and they felt secure so they could work on it. And he kept them motivated. And they looked to God for his strength and not to utilize their own strength. In 52 days, they rebuilt this wall and brought back to the glory of Jerusalem the safety and security that they were lacking. So again, we're talking about home security. 8 days shy of 2 months, the wall of Jerusalem had been completed. Security was felt once again inside Jerusalem. Safety could once again be felt inside the gates. And the leader's ability to protect the people would become much greater. As a leader, we have to be able to protect our people. The leaders of the church, the elders, are given the task of protecting the flock. Shepherd the flock. That's to keep the flock safe. Fathers, it is your job as a head of the household to protect your household. People have to have security, and it is our job to provide it. The enemy was disheartened, but note that the enemy doesn't quit. Even though they got it finally all the way shored up. In the first part of chapter 7 talks about how he just hung the doors and all the bars. So they're right here. You can just say that the job is complete. But just when the job is complete, again, take this message, take this lesson from this message. Satan doesn't quit. The enemy was disheartened, but note that the enemy does not quit. Matter of fact, all the way to the last chapter, chapter 13, we still see the enemy causing problems within this people. The enemy never quits in this story. Verses 15 through 16, also in these days the nobles of Judah sent many letters to Tobiah, and the letters of Tobiah came to them, for many in Judah were pledged to him, because he was the son-in-law of Shechaniah, the son of Arah, and the son of Jehonan, had married the daughter of Meshullam, the son of Berechiah. And also they reported his good deeds before me and reported my words to him. Tobiah sent letters to frighten me. Now hold on to that, because when we get to chapter 13, that's where this picks up again. Again, this enemy of Tobiah is going to show up again, the last chapter of the book of Nehemiah. So even though that the wall is complete, even though the city is secure, the enemy is still lurking, seeking whom he may devour. I found this picture on the internet, and I just wanted to use it to draw this point and draw this lesson to the close. Just because a home is secure doesn't mean the enemy gives up trying to get in. Now, I'll share with you, many years have passed, so it's really not that big of a sore spot anymore, but my family and I experienced a home intrusion many years ago, a home break-in. You talk about a terrible, sickening feeling. And you talk about being violated in that sense of violation and the sense of uneasiness and unrest that caused. The boys were little. I mean, they were still in elementary school, little. But I remember just that security was taken away for my family. It's a sickening feeling. That is something tangible and something physical that I wanted to lay out in front of you, because I want you to take that physical, tangible thing, that experience that happened to me. Maybe you've experienced it as well. But if not, I hope and pray you never do. But I want you to take that experience and I want you to put that on the spiritual side of things. Because see, what they took was a little bit of jewelry and a little bit of cash. Material things. And then a whole lot of sense of security, that emotional stuff that lasted a lot longer than those material things. When Satan breaks into your home and he steals your child's soul, or he breaks into your home and he drives a wedge between you and your spouse, it causes turmoil in that house, and now the children are feeling the turmoil because mama and daddy are bickering and fighting over something because Satan found a way in. Satan is this burglar, and just because you lock everything up airtight, fathers, never be too naive to think that Satan's quit and that you've got everything under control. You better stay on guard 24/7 and always watching out for your family's six, because Satan will find a way in. And when Satan gets in there, it won't be the material things that I lost. It could cost you and your family your soul. The importance of leadership goes far beyond trying to get a team to win a national championship, goes far beyond trying to get a sales team to meet monthly quotas. It goes far beyond trying to get a manufacturing team to be able to put out the numbers that they got to put out. It goes far beyond trying to accomplish earthly tasks. The leadership that I want to drive home, that we're looking at this book of Nehemiah for, is so we can lead people to heaven. Ourselves and our families and everybody else that we come in contact with. It's not going to happen by accident, brothers and sisters. People don't trip up and fall into heaven. It's on purpose with a purpose. And men, you've got to step up and lead on purpose and with a purpose. Sisters, you got to step up and lead on purpose and with a purpose. Brothers and sisters of this congregation, we need to lead this community on purpose and with a purpose, because it doesn't happen by accident. If people are going to come to Christ, we got to take Christ to them. And we got to lead them and show them the way by how we live our lives. I hope this has been an encouragement to you. I hope it's beneficial to you. As always, we'll never close a service without offering an invitation. And at this time, if you're here this evening and you're not a child of God, I encourage you and I ask you, why not? What are you waiting on? Make the best decision you've ever made in your life and come in obedience to the gospel call. If you are a child of God here and you've allowed sin back into your life, and maybe you're a father or a leader in your home, father or mother, wherever, and you're not being the leader that you know you ought to be, and you want the prayers of the church to help strengthen that up, you need some counseling and some help in that area, we'll give you that opportunity as well. We invite you to come as we stand and sing the song of invitation.
Thanks for watching this video. I know what you're thinking. I don't want to miss another video from this channel. In order to avoid that, click on the red button down there, subscribe, and then click the bell icon. Not only will that alert you each time a new video is uploaded to the channel, it will also help spread the channel to other people's awareness. So, go ahead, do it. Like right now, click on it.